You're watching Car Babble. I'm Ewan, and this is the 2018 Porsche Macan, the 4-cylinder one. There's absolutely tons of premium mid-size stroke compact SUVs out there now to choose from. But is the Porsche Macan the one to go for if you want a driver's car and an SUV all in one? Well, in this video I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this car and whether or not it's actually as good to drive as they say it is. So if you enjoy my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, buckle up and let's get into it. Now, I don't want to spend too much time talking about the looks of this car. One, because I never like to do that because you can see it for yourself. Let me know what you think in the comments. Looks are subjective, but also it's blowing an absolute hoolie out here. And to be honest, I'm concerned that you're not going to be able to hear half of what I'm saying. So let's just move on from this bit quite quickly. 20-inch rims for this car. It'll be interesting to see what the ride quality is like on those. But yeah, this is quite a compact SUV, and certainly there are bigger competitors in this segment. So the BMW X3, the Jaguar F-Pace, for examples, they are bigger, and even the Audi Q5, which this is actually based on, is slightly bigger, and certainly in the boot area, we'll talk about that as soon as it is. But yeah, it's a very compact looking SUV, and it's one of them SUVs that I'm kind of going, is it an SUV? It certainly rides higher than a normal car, but it doesn't ride particularly high. Those are not big gaps between the wheel and the body of the car. So I don't think this feels much like it's not a disco sport, let's put it that way. So yeah, do you need that though? Do you really need that kind of off-road capability? Most people probably don't, so I don't think that's a huge issue. But obviously if you want your car to be a really good driving car, if it's riding too high, there is potentially going to be a trade-off for that. But I think proportionally this is a lovely looking car, but it does feel very compact. As I say, we'll look at the boot shortly, but certainly it feels almost more car-like than SUV-like for me, but let me know what you think in the comments. Front end, very Porsche-like, the bug eye kind of lights, really like that. Yeah, unmistakably a Porsche. Fake air intakes that go over the wheels, yeah, they're not really real. I don't know why they did that. And back end, you've got really sexy LED taillights. I really like those, and real exhaust as well. No fakery here, so Matt Watson, you'll be fine. But yeah, overall, I think it's a nice looking car. Let me know what you think. Now let's take a look in the boot of the Macan, and yeah, just press this little dinky button here, blow the wiper, quite like that solution. 488 litres, which is not the biggest boot in its class. In fact, it's not even close. A lot of its rivals are 550 to 600. So yeah, that is quite a small boot in comparison. If you put all the seats down, which you have to do manually, at least in this car, you've got 1500 litres, but you do have 40-20-40 split folding seats. That's important. So you have a couple of kids' seats in the back, but you've got something long you need to get through there, like you've been at IKEA or something, you can put that middle seat down, and that really matters. There is a bit of a load lip here, but I do like the shape of this boot. Certainly with the design though, you're losing quite a bit of potential practicality here, a bit like in the Q5, but yeah, otherwise it's all right. You've got more space underneath here. If you lift this up, you could get a spare tyre in there, or just a load of other random stuff that the owner of this car has at the moment. So yeah, no spare tyre in this particular one, but you can get it. 12 volt, and yeah, it's really not that bad, but as I say, there are bigger. So the back seat of the Macan, and it's a mixed bag to be honest, because the quality is fantastic. The outer two seats are mega comfy, just like the front. But other than that, it's not the most spacious. Definitely its competitors have more space in some cases. No pockets in the back of the seat, so that's one thing to note. But yeah, seats in my driving position, I'm 5'9", and I don't have masses of knee room. Toe room isn't fantastic either, and you can't recline the seats, so you can't really spread out that much. Headroom isn't great either, but this does have the pan roof, so if you didn't have that, it might be slightly better. But I think people over 6 feet will struggle a little bit for long journeys in this car. It's not that wide either, and there's a massive transmission tunnel, so it's not going to be particularly comfy for a person sitting in this middle, but these other two seats, as I say, are really, really good. Tiny door bins, they're really small, but they do have rubber mats on the bottom, so things won't rattle about like Lego and stuff. You've got Isofix in there, or two seats, and they're fine, except these caps come off, and yeah, basically they're very easy to lose, so make sure that you put them somewhere safe. Got 3-zone climate control, 2 USBs, and then you've also got center armrest with a couple of cup holders, and they've got teeth in them, so that's a good solution in my opinion. And you've got this pan roof, so you've got all this air coming in the cabin. It does feel very premium back here. Space-wise, average, everything else, really good. So when you buy a Porsche, you expect the quality to be half decent, and I'm pleased to report it is in this car. The fit and finish is really good. There is a few bits where I'm like, that's not the softest, but it's okay up there. And the door isn't really, that's quite hard there. And this elbow point here is quite hard, much harder than here. This is lovely and soft. I don't really understand why that's not always mirrored. It's like you've got two elbows, you know. But yeah, things don't move, and the switch gear is damped really nicely with indicators. The buttons on the steering wheel feel nicely damped. Definitely not Audi levels of damping and nice clickiness on the buttons, but generally feels all pretty premium. And the door close, oh, nice blast of cold air there. Yeah, that's a nice door close as well. So quality is very good. It's as good as I would expect it to be. But are the Cubbies any good? Well, the door bins are a reasonable size. You get a big bottle in there and they've got rubber mats on the bottom. So I would say they're decent enough. And you've got decent cup holders here in a good position. Deep, and they've got teeth on them. So I like that. That'll hold a bottle really well. But if you pull this armrest forward, oh, yeah, they obscure them, so that's completely useless if you want to have both at the same time. You've got a centre bin here that is not the biggest, but you'll still get a few bits and pieces in there, and it's got an aux, a USB, and a 12 volt, so that's all right. And glove box is a decent size, but not the biggest I've ever seen. No sunglasses holder. That's pretty much it on Cubbies. But if you like a lot of buttons, this car will definitely be good for you, because there's a lot of them down here. And yeah, for a lot of reasons that's good, because once you find your muscle memory of where things are, I think that's better than stabbing a touchscreen. But they're really, you're gonna have to look down quite a bit to look for stuff, and some of them are buried behind the gear stick as well, so you can't even really see them without kind of going like that. So I think there's a lot of buttons here, and that could take some getting used to for some people. But all your physical controls for your AC, your heating, everything, and then a few drive mode selections and your lane keep and stuff are all there. And you've got a really good mechanical stick for changing gear, which I really like. Obviously it's an automatic, it's a PDK to be precise, dual clutch, but yeah, I really do like the way it shifts. It's really mechanical and it's got a lot of purpose, so I like that. But yeah, a lot of buttons. And then you've got a touch screen here, which is very good at swiping. It's very responsive, but it's not the biggest screen in the world, but you do also have shortcuts below it as well for all your main functions. So that's good. So I think they've got a balance right of all that. And then you've got this little bit here where you've got two SD card slots and a SIM card and a CD or DVD player. I'm not quite sure which one it is, but who cares? Who's going to use that? But yeah, this whole center console is definitely not going to be for everybody. I like it, except for one thing. And I had this in my Volvo V40, and this really bothered me. It doesn't seem to bother other people as much, but it seems to be facing away from the driver. It seems to be facing towards the passenger. It's not even like it's square. It feels like it's facing away. And my cynical mind is telling me that that is a cost-cutting measure from Porsche. When they moved the steering wheel to this side of the car, they just thought, we won't bother changing all this because that'll cost extra and people won't notice. I notice. So I'm not sure if that is the reason, but that really, really bothers me. I want this. This is a Porsche. It should be a driver-focused and centric car, and that is facing away from me, and I do not like that. But I do like what Porsche do with their cockpits. This is not a fully digital one. I think you can in newer Porsches get that, but certainly the rev counter in the middle, I really like that. It feels very racy and Porsche, and you've got your speedo one on the left, and then you've got a digital one on the right where you've got all your trip information. So yeah, they've got all bases ticked really, and all the information I need. I don't need a sat nav there, I can have it there. And you've also got a digital speedo. So yeah, absolutely fine with that, works really well. Now this car is showing its age a little bit, that it doesn't have a start button, it has a key slot, and you turn it like an old school car. That doesn't bother me at all though, to be honest, because your key has to go somewhere. So pressing a button, turning a key, I don't really care, to be honest. That for me isn't an issue at all, but it means my key's out my way and I have to think about putting it somewhere else here. Although there's nowhere else to put my phone either, so that's definitely another thing that's showing this car's age. But yeah, that solution works just fine for me. What I don't like though is this massive bezel around the interior rear view mirror. It's not a very big mirror, but that doesn't bother me. But that is a really, really thick bezel around there. That's like an old 90s iPad. There's no need for it to be that thick, and that just makes it look really, really old. Something else this car does not have at this age is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You do get it in the refresh in 2019, but yeah, it would be really nice to have that, and it would have really kind of kept this car feeling a bit fresher. But yeah, I'm splitting hairs here, you know, otherwise it's got a decent enough infotainment system that you're gonna be able to do most things you need, and you can always update the sat nav. Now, being that this is a premium German car, when you buy one new, it's gonna be blooming expensive to start with, but to have any decent amount of toys in it, it's gonna get really expensive really fast. This pan roof is definitely not standard, and neither is the electric memory seats on both sides and all that stuff. There's definitely a few options this car has. I can't entirely confirm what, because the owner of this car bought it second hand. But yeah, when you buy a Porsche, you start pretty low down and the costs escalate pretty quick. This one, base spec, starts from 53 grand now. So yeah, you could be easily spending 60 grand just like that. And that's before you go into the bigger, meatier engines of the turbo or the GTS or whatever. But yeah, that is really how it can get quite expensive quite quick. If you wanted to get one second hand, 2018 with like up to 50,000 on the clock, you're probably looking at low 30s starting point, but it might already have some toys on it. So that might be a slightly more cost-effective way to buy a Porsche. They hold their value pretty good. Therefore, if you went on a PCP, you might be able to get into one on monthly payments lower than in a new one. So that's something to bear in mind. But yeah, I so far think this is a really, really good car and the value proposition seems to stack up. But we haven't driven it yet, so let's do that. So there's loads of 6-cylinder engines available with a Porsche Macan and any other Porsche and then some. But in this one, it is a 2-litre 4-cylinder petrol turbocharged, and it has 252 horsepower, 370 newton meters of torque, and it'll do 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds apparently, which is pretty blooming quick. Now I expect the handling to be excellent, and it is. It really is good. I mean, as I said before, this car doesn't sit that high up for an SUV, and the suspension's quite stiff. It's running on 20s as well, so yeah, I expect it to not have a lot of lean in the corners, and it has basically none. And yeah, it just feels like it's really, really set up to be a sporty car to drive. And yeah, you could do some really fun stuff in this car for an SUV. Really, I'm struggling to think of an SUV I've driven that actually corners better than this. It's brilliant. This car is riding on 20-inch rims, so you'd expect it to be reasonably firm, and it is. It doesn't have the adaptive air suspension either, which would be fantastic to have, but certainly I don't find it overly firm. Its speed, I'm not really noticing too many bumps in the road. It lowers speed a wee bit, but it's not annoying. It's not a problem. But yeah, having adaptive air suspension would definitely take it to another level, but really, it's meant to be a sporty SUV, and so I don't mind a slightly firmer ride, and as long as it stays flat in the corners, which it absolutely does, I'm cool with that. It doesn't feel like it drives like an SUV, to be honest. It really feels like I'm driving just a car that's just slightly higher off the ground. I don't feel like there's any SUV kind of characteristics about how this drives. It really is marvelous as a handling car, and the steering's good as well. Sharper in sport mode, but it's sharp, and yeah, you can really have some fun on a country road with this thing. It's just really competent and just ready to pounce and just tackle any kind of bend. I'm really putting my foot down here, and oh, cheapers, it's just absolutely glorious. Now, I don't have specialist timing gear, so I'm kind of using the force to tell if this really is 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds. Yeah, I'm going to give it that. I'd say that's 6.3 maybe. I mean, I'm really using the force here, but it felt like it was just over 6 seconds. But I did that using automatic mode. I didn't use the gear shift paddles there, but it revved out so well all the way. So I think that's probably pretty accurate. Now, without getting too technical, because I'm really not that technical a person, this dual clutch gearbox in a Porsche is called a PDK, and it really is phenomenal. It's an absolutely brilliant gearbox for sporty driving, because the gear shifts are so slick, they're so snappy and fast, so smooth. There's not as much lag in this dual clutch as I have found in other cars when you put your foot down. It really seems to get into gear really quickly. I always have a bit of a concern with out of warranty dual clutch gearboxes, but this one is an absolute peach. This is probably the best gearbox I've ever experienced in a car, and yeah, using the paddles as well, so snappy, just a fabulous gearbox, and yeah, thanks Porsche, you've nailed it. Fuel economy is going to get worse and worse the bigger the engine, and this one averages about 27 miles per gallon. You probably could scrape a bit more out of that if you were being a bit more frugal, but that's really not terrible for the sort of performance you've got on tap. And yeah, I want to say that really, if you're on a bit of a budget, enough that you can get a Porsche, but not one that is a supercar Porsche, then this will probably be quite surprising. Visibility is pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's good enough. You've got pretty decent sized wing mirrors. This center mirror isn't really that big, but you can still see back okay. And yeah, you can really see all around the car pretty well. So I've got no problems with that. Refinement's good as well. In fact, it's really good. Not hearing much noise coming in the cabin at all. No rattly diesel engine to worry about, but generally, other than when you rev out the petrol engine, which I like, you don't have a lot of issues with noise, and there's no noise coming over the wing mirrors or the tires. Generally, it's really refined. I really, really love the seat in this car. I can't actually believe how comfortable the seat is. It's like, this is Volvo levels of comfort. It's so comfy, and so yeah, you've got this really sporty car, but it's one you want to spend time in, you know? I could have a nap in this seat. It is really that good. One thing is though, I'm not a big fan of the steering wheel actually, now that I'm driving it a bit more. It feels premium, but it's just quite hard. I just want a slightly more kind of soft and squidgy steering wheel, and I just don't feel like I've got that. I think they could do better on their steering wheels. It's the right thickness, it's just really hard, and I don't really like that. Now, German cars aren't generally renowned for being particularly reliable, but the reliability on this Macan is fairly decent actually. It scores pretty well. So that's really quite encouraging, because yeah, if you want to be able to afford one of these on a reasonable budget, you're probably looking at one that might be out of warranty. So I would say that is definitely a plus point compared to some of its rivals. So what do I think of this overall? Well, I think if you're looking for a more practical SUV, look elsewhere, because this isn't the biggest SUV in its class even, let alone the fact that there's the Porsche Macan, which is a bigger Porsche SUV. Definitely you'll get bigger ones and more practical for carrying passengers, but also luggage as well. And yeah, some of its rivals, almost all of them will do that better, but comfort wise, this is as good as a Volvo XC60. And I think as a driver's car, I'm struggling to think there'll be any car in the segment that will be as good as this. The BMW X3 or the Jaguar F-Pace maybe would run it close, but this is an all-rounder driver's car, has basically no flaws. It's absolutely fantastic. And so yeah, if you're wanting an SUV that's also transforms into a sports car basically at the weekend, then don't look much further than the Porsche Macan, because it's absolutely blooming brilliant. So those are my thoughts, guys. I would love to know yours, so please do leave me a comment below. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a like and consider subscribing, because there's loads more coming up the channel. And the more subscribers I have, the more chance I've got of getting access to even more awesome cars. So please do subscribe. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.